Dr. Alan Klein squinted at the computer screen, rubbing his tired eyes. For 3 nights straight, he had tracked the unusual signal pattern coming from deep space. What had begun as a routine observation at the Mountain Observatory had quickly become the most important discovery of his career. "This isn't random," he whispered to himself, watching the pulsing pattern repeat with perfect precision. Natural cosmic phenomena didn't behave this way. These signals showed structure, intention, and most disturbingly, intelligence. Alan's fingers trembled slightly as he reached for his phone. This was bigger than him, bigger than the observatory. The world needed to know. Within 48 hours, the small observatory transformed into a hub of frantic activity. Government vehicles lined the normally empty parking lot, and serious men and women in suits hurried through hallways, usually traversed only by sleepy astronomers. Dr. Lisa Morgan arrived with the third wave of specialists. As the nation's foremost expert in cryptography, she had been pulled from a classified military project to make sense of the alien patterns. "The structure suggests a language," Lisa explained during the first briefing. "Complex but systematic. The repetition indicates they want to be understood." General Frank Burton nodded grimly. "And how long until you can translate?" "Days, maybe weeks," she answered. "But we're making progress." Alan watched from the back of the room as military personnel and scientists debated what the signals might mean. Their theories ranged from hopeful to apocalyptic. The question of whether to respond divided the room. Some argued for immediate contact. Others counseled caution, reminding everyone of humanity's own history when technologically advanced civilizations encountered more primitive ones. "The decision may soon be out of our hands," announced Jack Foster, entering the room with a tablet displaying satellite imagery. As a military analyst specializing in threat assessment, his expression told everyone this wasn't good news. "We've detected objects at the edge of our solar system," Jack continued, projecting the images onto the main screen. "They're moving in formation, too uniform to be natural." The room fell silent as everyone stared at the approaching dots. "Ships?" someone finally asked. "Most likely," Jack confirmed. "And based on their arrangement, I'd say warships." Within hours, leaders from every major nation assembled via secure video link. The president's face appeared grim on the main screen as advisors presented what little information they had. "Ladies and gentlemen," the president addressed the global leaders, "we face an unprecedented situation. We don't yet know if these visitors come in peace, but we must prepare for all possibilities." Nations that had been enemies for generations suddenly found themselves united by a potential threat that made their differences seem trivial. As panic spread among those with knowledge of the situation, Dr. Lisa Morgan worked tirelessly to decode the alien transmissions. Each breakthrough revealed fragments of meaning, none of them reassuring. "They're not asking for dialogue," she reported after 72 hours without sleep. "From what I can tell, they're making demands." Outside the secure facility, life continued normally. People went to work, children attended school, and families gathered for dinner, all unaware that humanity stood on the threshold of its greatest challenge. Alan stared at the night sky through the observatory dome, now seeing it not as a field of scientific discovery, but as a vast ocean across which something dangerous was sailing toward Earth. "What do they want from us?" he whispered to the stars. As if in answer, the objects at the edge of the solar system began to accelerate. The tension in the United Nations Security Council chamber was thick enough to cut with a knife. On screens around the world, Dr. Lisa Morgan stood before global leaders, her face drawn from exhaustion, but her voice steady as she delivered news that would change human history forever. "We've completed our translation of the alien message," she announced. "It comes from what they call the Noxian Empire. And it is, without question, an ultimatum." She tapped her tablet, and the translated message appeared on screens throughout the chamber. "To the primitive species of Earth, your planet has been claimed by the glorious Noxian Empire. Your resources are now property of Emperor Vorix. You have 30 standard days to dismantle your governments and prepare for imperial administration. Resistance will result in pacification. This is not negotiable." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The Secretary General raised a hand for silence. "How certain are you of this translation, Doctor?" "Very certain," Lisa replied. "The language pattern is consistent and clear. They view us as a primitive civilization sitting on valuable resources." General Ryan Powell stood up. "The alien fleet has accelerated. Current projections put them in Earth orbit in 29 days. Chaos erupted as delegates argued. Some nations advocated immediate surrender to avoid destruction. Others called for united resistance. "We cannot bow to these creatures," shouted one delegate. "And how do you propose we fight an enemy that can cross galaxies?" countered another. Away from the political debate, Dr. Samuel Harris worked in a secure laboratory beneath the New Mexico desert. Before him lay a fragment of material recovered from a small probe the aliens had sent ahead of their fleet. "It's responding to the radiation," Sam told his colleague. "Look at how the molecular structure changes." Under the electron microscope, the alien alloy showed unexpected deterioration. When exposed to a specific radioactive isotope common on Earth, but apparently rare in the wider galaxy. "This could be significant," he muttered, making careful notes. At the Pentagon, Colonel Paul Martinez and Major Catherine Wells reviewed Earth's defensive capabilities against the approaching threat. "Conventional weapons will be useless," Catherine said, sliding through satellite images of the alien fleet. "But look at this energy signature. It fluctuates when they pass through radiation belts." Paul studied the data. "You think they have a vulnerability?" "I think," Catherine replied carefully, "they evolved in an environment very different from Earth. What's harmless to us might be devastating to them." She pulled up Dr. Harris's preliminary report. "And this supports my theory." Within days, a global coalition formed unlike anything in human history. Ancient enemies shared military secrets, scientists exchanged research freely, and manufacturing facilities worldwide began retooling to produce specialized radiation emitters based on Sam's discovery. In his private observatory, Dr. Alan Klein watched as more alien ships appeared at the edges of the solar system. Their formation was perfect, intimidating in its precision. "They expect us to surrender without a fight," he said to Lisa, who had joined him. "They'd done this before to other worlds." "Yes," she agreed, "but I don't think they've encountered a planet quite like Earth before." The first test of the new defensive weapon took place in the Australian outback. A small piece of the alien material was placed in a sealed chamber. When the radiation emitter activated, the material didn't just deteriorate, it disintegrated completely. News of the successful test spread quickly through government channels. For the first time since the alien message arrived, hope began to replace despair. As the Noxian fleet crossed the orbit of Mars, humanity prepared its response. The countdown to Earth's deadline continued, but no longer did it seem like a march to extinction. Instead, it became a race to ready a defense that might just save the planet. Dr. Olivia Carter hadn't slept in 3 days. Her lab at the National Research Center buzzed with activity as scientists worked around the clock. Screens displayed complex data patterns while technicians adjusted equipment that hadn't existed 2 weeks ago. "I need those radiation readings again," Olivia called out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. She studied the results with intense focus, then allowed herself a small smile. "It's not just the alien material that reacts to our radiation. Their entire biological structure would be vulnerable." Research teams worldwide had been sharing information at unprecedented speed. What they discovered was remarkable. Earth's background radiation, a mix of elements that humans had evolved alongside for millions of years, was potentially lethal to the Noxian physiology. "Our DNA contains sequences that protect us from these radiation types," Olivia explained to the Emergency Science Council. "The Noxians evolved in a system with different stellar properties. What's normal for us is poison to them." In a repurposed aircraft hangar, engineer Henry Wilson supervised the assembly of the first full-scale radiation emitter. The prototype was ugly, a hastily constructed mix of military hardware and civilian technology, but its test results were beautiful. "Power to 60%, Henry ordered, watching through protective glass as the device hummed to life. Inside the test chamber, a recovered piece of alien technology began to deteriorate. Within minutes, its complex circuits failed completely. Henry's team erupted in cheers. The weapon worked. "Get me the defense secretary," Henry said into his phone. "Tell him Operation Sunburst is viable." Around the world, similar breakthroughs were happening. Countries that had been enemies for generations now shared resources and knowledge. Factory workers volunteered for extra shifts to manufacture components. Military bases converted to production facilities. Scientists published findings openly instead of guarding secrets. The president addressed a joint session of Congress, flanked by leaders from every major political party. "For the first time in human history, we stand truly united," she declared, "not as nations or ideologies, but as Earthlings defending our home." The speech was broadcast globally. In its wake, millions of volunteers stepped forward to assist in any way possible. Retired engineers returned to work. College students left classes to help with manufacturing. Farmers offered land for emitter placement. In orbit, military satellites were repurposed to create a detection grid that would track the approaching Noxian fleet. The ships had passed Mars now, their engines burning bright as they approached Earth. Dr. Alan Klein monitored their progress from the observatory. 21 days until they reach optimal firing position, he reported. General Powell nodded grimly. "Will the defense system be ready?" "It has to be," replied Catherine Wells, now promoted to colonel for her work on the planetary defense strategy. "The emitter network is at 40% completion. We need at least 80 to create an effective shield." Small teams of Special Forces soldiers, accompanied by scientists, deployed to remote locations around the globe, setting up emitter stations on mountains, in deserts, and even underwater. The plan required perfect coordination. Each device needed to activate in sequence to create a global radiation field. Henry Wilson traveled personally to install the control system at the North Pole Station. The bitter cold made the work difficult, but failure wasn't an option. "Final connection complete," he reported, his breath visible in the freezing air. "This node is online." One by one, similar reports came in from around the world. Green lights appeared on the global map at Defense Headquarters as each station activated. Olivia Carter checked the latest readings from her lab. The radiation field was forming exactly as their models predicted. Earth was creating an invisible shield, one that would make any Noxian invasion a suicide mission. In the command center, the president watched the defense system's completion percentage climb. 65%, 68%, 70%. The countdown clock showed 17 days remaining. It would be close, but humanity had found its advantage. For the first time since the aliens appeared, Earth had hope. The emergency alert sounded at 3:17 a.m., waking Dr. Alan Klein from his first real sleep in days. He stumbled to his computer, expecting more bad news about the approaching Noxian fleet. Instead, he found himself staring at something completely unexpected. "We're receiving a new transmission," said the night shift operator over the video link. Different signature from the Noxians. It appeared suddenly, originating from somewhere near Jupiter's orbit. Alan studied the signal pattern. "This isn't Noxian. The frequency modulation is completely different." Within an hour, the world's leadership had assembled in virtual conference. On screens around the globe, tired faces showed a mixture of confusion and dread. "Could it be reinforcements for the invasion?" asked the Russian president. Before anyone could answer, the mysterious signal suddenly translated itself into every major Earth language simultaneously, appearing on communication systems worldwide. "People of Earth, we are the Valorian Alliance. We come to offer assistance against the Noxian Empire. Time is short. Please respond." Debate erupted immediately. Was this a trap? Another alien power seeking to manipulate Earth, or genuine help when humanity needed it most. We can't trust them, argued General Powell. This could be a Noxian trick. We're hardly in a position to refuse help, countered the Chinese premier. While leaders debated, Lisa Morgan noticed something in the transmission data. The message contains technical specifications, she announced. Detailed schematics for advanced shielding technology. Dr. Gregory Powell, head of the Integrated Defense Project, reviewed the schematics. His eyes widened. This technology is decades beyond us, but the principles make sense. It could dramatically enhance our radiation defense system. The president made her decision. Send a guarded response. We'll meet their representative. The meeting location was a remote airfield in Iceland. Military forces surrounded the area as a small vessel descended from the clouds. It wasn't large or intimidating, just a simple craft that landed with barely a sound. A single figure emerged, humanoid but clearly alien, with pale blue skin and eyes that reflected light like a cat's. The being called itself Ambassador Kell. We have monitored your planet for centuries, Kell explained to the assembled human representatives. The Noxians have conquered 17 worlds in the last decade. They seek resources, not coexistence. Why help us? Asked the Secretary General. The Valorian Alliance opposes Noxian expansion, but we cannot engage them directly without triggering a galactic war. Supporting resistance on targeted planets serves our interests and yours. Kell gestured, and a hologram appeared showing the Noxian fleet. Their attack strategy is predictable. Their weakness to Earth's radiation is more severe than you realize. With our shielding technology integrated into your defense system, you can create a radiation barrier they cannot penetrate. Trust came slowly, but necessity drove cooperation. Valorian engineers worked alongside human scientists, teaching them principles of physics that Earth was centuries from discovering independently. Dr. Gregory Powell led the integration team, working to combine Valorian shielding with Earth's radiation emitters. Their technology amplifies our advantage tenfold, he explained during a progress briefing. The radiation field will now extend further into space, catching the Noxians before they can even enter orbit. Not everyone welcomed the alien assistance. Protests erupted in major cities, with some fearing the Valorians had hidden motives. Security around the joint projects increased as tensions rose. In the Mountain Control Center, Alan Klein watched as the enhanced defense grid came online. The Valorian modifications turned the haphazard human system into something elegant and powerful. The completion percentage jumped. 85%, 90%, 95%. Defense grid is fully operational, announced the system controller. All stations report green status. A cheer erupted through the command center. Humanity's shield was ready with days to spare. Ambassador Kell observed quietly from the corner. You have accomplished in weeks what most species require years to build. Impressive. Will it be enough? Asked Alan. Kell's expression remained unreadable. It will give the Noxians something they didn't expect. A fight. The countdown clock showed 12 days remaining before the Noxian fleet would reach Earth. But now, Earth was ready. Colonel Susan Wright straightened her uniform as the camera operators made final adjustments. Behind her stood representatives from every major nation on Earth, a unified human front. The broadcast would be sent on all frequencies directly to the Noxian fleet, now just 8 days from Earth orbit. Susan had been chosen for this task because of her calm demeanor and clear speaking voice. More importantly, as a decorated combat veteran, she understood exactly what this message represented. Humanity's only warning to its would-be conquerors. We're ready when you are, Colonel, said the communications director. Susan nodded and looked directly into the camera. When the red light blinked on, she began speaking with quiet authority. To Emperor Vorax and the forces of the Noxian Empire, I am Colonel Susan Wright of Earth's United Defense Force. I speak for all nations and peoples of our world. She paused, letting the gravity of the moment register. You have demanded our surrender. You have threatened our extinction. You have assumed our weakness. These were mistakes. On screens throughout the command center, technicians monitored the signal as it reached the approaching fleet. The Noxians were receiving the transmission. Earth is protected. Your biology, it is your weakness. We will target it without mercy. Susan gestured, and the feed switched to carefully prepared footage. Radiation emitters powering up around the globe, the enhanced shield generators creating visible distortion fields in test environments, and most importantly, captured alien material disintegrating under targeted radiation. We have studied your vulnerabilities. The radiation your species cannot tolerate is abundant on our world. We have lived with it for millions of years. It has shaped our evolution. It has made us immune to what will destroy you. Behind Susan, a display showed the global defense grid, thousands of points of light forming a protective network around the planet. Our planet's natural radiation, amplified by our technology, now forms a barrier your ships cannot penetrate without catastrophic failure. The broadcast switched to information provided by the Valorians, historical records showing previous planets that had successfully repelled Noxian forces. You are not invincible. Other worlds have defeated you. We have contacted the Valorian Alliance. They have shared their knowledge of your previous defeats. In the Noxian command ship, Emperor Vorax watched the human transmission with growing rage. This primitive species dared to threaten his mighty empire. His scaled fist slammed down on his throne's armrest, cracking the metallic surface. Impossible, he hissed. These creatures could not have developed such defenses so quickly. Back on Earth, Susan continued with steady resolve. We offer you one opportunity to retreat. Withdraw your fleet beyond the orbit of Mars and never return to our solar system. This offer expires in 24 hours. After that time, any Noxian vessel approaching Earth will be considered hostile and will be destroyed. She leaned slightly forward, her eyes cold. We did not seek this conflict. We have no interest in your empire or its conquests. But make no mistake, we will defend our home with every resource at our disposal. Susan straightened again. The choice is yours, Emperor. Retreat and live or advance and face the consequences. The transmission ended. In command centers across the globe, leaders and military personnel waited anxiously for the Noxian response. It came 3 hours later, a message so filled with rage that parts were barely translatable. Your defiance is meaningless, Emperor Vorax snarled from the screen. Your primitive weapons cannot harm the might of the Noxian Empire. We will not be threatened by lesser beings. Your world will burn for this insult. Ambassador Kell watched the response with the Human Leadership Council. This is typical Noxian arrogance. They cannot accept that a primitive species could challenge them. So they're not retreating, said the president. No, replied Kell. They will attack sooner than planned now. Their pride demands it. General Powell turned to his staff. Alert all defense stations. Full combat readiness effective immediately. As the warning spread around the world, humanity prepared for the first interstellar war in Earth's history. The defense grid hummed with power, ready to protect the planet from invaders who refused their only warning. The alarm shattered the pre-dawn quiet at Global Defense Headquarters. Lieutenant Ryan Cooper jerked awake at his monitoring station, eyes immediately focusing on the display screen where dozens of red dots had appeared without warning. We have incoming, he shouted. Noxian advance fleet detected crossing lunar orbit. General Powell rushed to the command center, still buttoning his uniform jacket. Time to intercept. 17 minutes, sir. They've accelerated dramatically. Must have been using some kind of stealth technology to mask their approach. The emergency alert system activated worldwide. In cities across the planet, civilians moved quickly to designated shelters as defense personnel reported to their stations. The Orbital Defense Network, Earth's first line of protection, automatically powered up its targeting systems. They're deploying ahead of schedule, Ambassador Kell observed, joining the human commanders. Typical Noxian tactic, striking before the announced deadline to catch defenders unprepared. Dr. Olivia Carter studied the incoming data. The radiation signature from their engines is stronger than expected. They're pushing their systems to maximum capacity. In space, the first wave of Noxian attack ships entered the outer perimeter of Earth's defense grid. 20 sleek vessels, each bristling with weapons designed to subdue planetary populations. Their commanders had conquered worlds across 3 star systems, always following the same efficient pattern: a swift strike to eliminate military capability, followed by overwhelming force. They had never faced anything like what awaited them around Earth. The first radiation pulse was invisible but devastating. As the alien ships crossed the threshold, alarms blared throughout their fleet. Ship systems began failing in cascading sequences. Hull materials weakened. Life support fluctuated. Weapon systems went offline. Direct hit on all targets, reported Catherine Wells, now overseeing the orbital defense network. Radiation penetrating their shields exactly as predicted. On the main view screen, the assembled leaders watched as the Noxian ships began to falter. Some tumbled out of formation, their guidance systems compromised. Others fired wildly, their weapons discharging harmlessly into space as targeting systems failed. Second pulse deploying now, Catherine announced. The second wave of radiation was more focused, targeting the specific frequencies that the Valorians had identified as most disruptive to Noxian biology. Inside the alien ships, crew members collapsed as radiation sickness overwhelmed their protective gear. 3 ships exploded spectacularly, their power cores destabilized by the radiation. 7 more drifted helplessly, all systems dead. The remaining vessels attempted retreat, their engines sputtering against the invisible barrier of Earth's defense. 1 ship is still operational, Ryan reported. It's changing course, heading for the South Pacific region. Our coverage is thinner there due to fewer emitter stations. General Powell turned to Catherine. Can you intercept? Redirecting satellite emitters now, she confirmed, fingers flying across her control panel. The lone Noxian ship plunged toward Earth's atmosphere, trailing smoke as its systems failed. Ground-based weapons locked on, tracking its descent. Just before impact, a concentrated radiation pulse from 3 redirected satellites enveloped the vessel. It crashed into the empty ocean, creating a massive plume of steam and debris. Navy vessels already in the area moved to secure the site. We have a survivor, came the report hours later. Noxian officer, appears to be the captain. Contained in a radiation-proof isolation unit. The captured alien was transported to a secure facility. Through translator technology provided by the Valorians, interrogation revealed critical information. The main Noxian fleet was still coming, and Emperor Vorax himself commanded it. This was merely their scouting party, Ambassador Kell explained. The Emperor would not risk himself until he believed victory was assured. And now, asked the President. Now he knows his enemy is formidable. He will come with everything he has. The data recovered from the crashed ship confirmed Kell's assessment. The main Noxian armada, hundreds of warships, had adjusted course and accelerated. They would reach Earth in less than 48 hours. Alert all stations, ordered General Powell. This was just the first skirmish. The real battle is coming. Around the world, humanity prepared for the greatest test in its history. The defense system had proven effective, but would it hold against the full might of an interstellar empire? The skies above Earth lit up with flashes that outshone the stars. The main Noxian fleet had arrived, hundreds of warships surrounding the planet in an intimidating display of imperial might. At their center, Emperor Vorax's flagship dwarfed all others, a massive vessel bristling with weapons designed to shatter planetary defenses. They're deploying in attack formation, announced Catherine Wells, her voice steady despite the tension filling the command center. Multiple approach vectors, attempting to find weak points in our radiation grid. On screens worldwide, military and civilian leaders watched as humanity faced its greatest challenge. The defense grid glowed on tactical displays, a network of light encircling the planet, strongest over population centers, but with inevitable thin spots in remote areas. All stations report ready, General Powell confirmed. Radiation emitters at maximum capacity. Ambassador Kell stood beside the human commanders. 4 additional Valorian ships now visible in Earth orbit. We will engage their flanking vessels. Focus your defenses on their central attack force. The Noxian attack began with a barrage of energy weapons, testing Earth's defenses. The radiation shield absorbed most impacts, but several remote emitter stations reported damage. Response teams rushed to repair crucial systems as the alien fleet pressed its advantage. They're concentrating fire on the Pacific Quadrant, reported Ryan Cooper. Shield integrity dropping to 60% in that sector. In her laboratory, Dr. Olivia Carter made a critical decision. We need to deploy the pulse now, she told General Powell over the secure line. We can't wait any longer. The general hesitated only briefly. Do it. Carter's team had developed a planet-wide radiation pulse, a massive surge that would flood near-Earth space with the specific radiation frequencies most harmful to Noxian biology. It was their most powerful weapon, but could only be used once before Earth's own radiation resources would be temporarily depleted. Initiating global pulse in 3, 2, 1. For a moment, the world held its breath. Then, from emitter stations on every continent, a wave of invisible energy surged upward, enveloping the planet in an expanding sphere of radiation. In space, the effect was immediate and devastating. Noxian ships faltered as systems failed and crew members collapsed. Smaller vessels lost power entirely, drifting helplessly. Even the massive Imperial flagship shuddered as the radiation penetrated its shields. Direct hit on 80% of enemy vessels, Catherine reported, unable to keep the triumph from her voice. They're breaking formation. The Valorian ships seized the moment, engaging the disoriented Noxian forces with precision strikes. Earth's remaining defensive weapons targeted key enemy vessels, focusing particularly on command ships to disrupt the Imperial chain of command. On the Noxian flagship, Emperor Vorx raged as his officers fell around him. Protected by his personal shield, he watched in disbelief as his invincible armada crumbled before a species he had dismissed as primitive. Impossible, he snarled, staring at the blue-green planet that had defied his empire. Target their major cities. If we cannot have this world, we will destroy it. But the flagship's weapons remained unresponsive, its targeting systems corrupted by Earth's radiation pulse. As emergency alarms blared throughout the massive vessel, Vorx finally accepted the unthinkable: defeat. The Emperor's flagship is retreating, announced Ryan, tracking the massive ship as it struggled to break orbit. The rest of their fleet is following. Cheers erupted in command centers around the world. On streets and in shelters, people emerged to watch the lights of the alien fleet diminish as they fled Earth's orbit. In the following days, representatives from a dozen previously unknown alien civilizations made contact with Earth. Some offered congratulations, others trade agreements. All showed a new respect for the planet that had defeated the Noxian Empire. 1 month after the battle, Earth's leaders gathered at the newly formed Interstellar Diplomatic Center. Ambassador Kell presented them with an official invitation to join the Valorian Alliance as a sovereign power. Your victory has changed the balance of power in this sector of the galaxy, Kell explained. Many worlds that suffered under Noxian rule have now declared independence. You have inspired a revolution. As humanity took its first steps into the galactic community, scientists already worked to adapt the alien technologies shared during the crisis. Earth's defense systems remained active, a reminder to any future threat that this small blue planet was not to be underestimated.